It's overwhelming to create content. I don't even know what content to talk about. If I want to post every day, oh my God, I need to post every day.
One of the ways, for example, to achieve that is to say something highly controversial.
Turn that on.
Anyways, doesn't matter what you do, it's still not about you, it's about the customer, right?
It's almost like you already got all the meat. Now it's just about choosing a character.
If you're always the same, at some point it becomes boring.
Yeah, you have a hater.
Well, that was cool.
Right? So... Hey, welcome to the 100K podcast, where you learn hyper-practical skills to start, run, and grow a purpose-driven lifestyle business, going from 0 to 100K in yearly profits as a solopreneur and without external investment.
Well, that was cool.
Right? So today we're going to talk about personal branding, and we have a special guest, my co-founder, Olga here. She has worked for Adidas, managing a team in brand marketing of over 40 people with millions of marketing budget. She's also worked product marketing, category management, e-com at Adidas and Wayfair. And since 4 years, she's also driven really deep into content creation, into building personal brands, and especially in the context of starting and growing your own business. So welcome to this episode. Thank you for sharing today.
Awesome. What an introduction. Thank you.
All right.
I feel popular.
You are. All right. So maybe we start going into this just like from the foundation. Like, you know, we want to talk about personal branding in the context of business building, but when do I even start thinking about personal branding? Maybe let's get this right first. So within the context of, you know, where you are on your business building journey, you know, okay, now it's the right time for me to dive deeper into this.
Yeah, I think it's great to start with that, because usually people think that they need to start with the brand and the brand building activities whenever they start the business, right? But it's like, I would not say it's a mistake, but it's just like you're going kind of in the wrong order, right? Because like, for whom are you building the brand if you haven't confirmed that there are people who are ready to buy from you, right? So it's kind of counter logical, like from my perspective, right? So it's kind of like, if you haven't validated your business idea, if you haven't validated that there are people who are ready to buy from you, it's not the time to build a personal brand yet. So first you validate the idea. First, you know, like, okay, there are customers who are ready to buy from me. Then you start looking into establishing a repeatable sales process. So every time I do XYZ, I get like, I don't know, ABC amount of customers in my business, right? So when you understand and establish a repeatable sales process, at that moment of time, you must start looking into creating a brand, because now you understand, like, yes, there is the customer. Yes, I can get them into my business repeatedly. Now it's the time to build the brand, right? Until then, the only thing that you really need is positioning of your product or service, right? So it's kind of like, what is it doing for whom specifically, and what problems it's solving for them, right? So this is the positioning of your product or service. That's all you need in order to sell and get, like, I don't know, up to 20K in your business, like, quite easily. So you don't need the brand for that. But
even moving to 100K, if you just repeat that process, right?
Absolutely.
I think the first 100K milestone is quite achievable. And also maybe just to add to your point, because you said, you know, positioning is kind of what you need in the beginning, then validate, then figure out the repeatable sales process, and then build a personal brand. And maybe just even a step before the positioning is this customer discovery that we always talk about. I just wanted to throw it in, just, you know, to complete this cycle, because like, what positioning to choose, right? Talk to people, and, you know, you have a hypothesis maybe on your own life experience, but then you talk to people and you understand from them, you know, what are their pains, what are their wishes, what do they need, how do they talk about, and that's how you build your initial positioning. It already is sort of a type of personal branding in a way, very, very minimal. It's not much of your personality infused yet, but it's a customer-centric positioning, I guess.
Absolutely. It's kind of like, you need to understand for whom you are working in your business, right? And your customers need to understand what are you doing for them specifically, and why should they care about it. If they don't understand, like, what kind of problems it's solving for them and why should they care about that, they will not buy.
That's the masthead of your sales page, by the way, when you're validating.
Exactly. So, right, and if you have no one to sell your products to, you don't have a business, so for whom are you building the brand, right? So it makes no sense.
Exactly. Nice. Thank you for this foundation. Actually, maybe one more thing that kind of comes up for me, because we were getting to that epiphany of like, the different stages, because you read a lot of books, but then it really only drops deeper oftentimes when you experience this yourself, right? And we were getting really good at customer discovery and validation. And then we just kind of kept going. That's what I was also saying. Like, you can make 100K. We made well over 100K in this early process, getting really good at conversion. But we missed a little bit in our early stages this moment to switch to audience growth and brand building. And we didn't turn that on by the time we hit a certain market validation. And then in the end, our audience was like growing, a little bit by little bit. And we were selling, and eventually the audience dries out. So it's so important, once you do hit that, immediately focus on audience growth, for which personal brand, and putting content out there through personal brand, through content, establishing you. That can be a very good way to do this in the beginning.
Absolutely. I generally believe that, like, for entrepreneurs these days, in general, digital presence is a must, right? Like, you can't really avoid it. It's not like it's the only way to grow the business, or that's your content marketing, like within like different social channels, will be the only traction channel for your business. Absolutely not, right? There are like so many of them, but like without it, in a kind of modern setup, if you don't have a digital presence, you almost like you don't exist, right? So you need to establish this presence. And like you said, like, it's important to start growing the audience, right? Because it's kind of like, if we look at the sales funnel, right? It's called a funnel for a reason, right? So there needs to be people coming from the top into your funnel, right? And like, the wider is kind of like the top of the funnel, the more people are coming in, the more you're going to convert by the end of it, right? So it is very important to focus on your conversion, right? Because of course, like, people might come in, but if you're really shit with your conversion, if there is like your product or service is not speaking to them, right? Or the way how you run sales is not working, they will not buy, right? So it doesn't matter if you have like a huge top of the funnel, like in the end, like, there is nothing coming out of it, but vice versa, right? You can be amazing at conversion, like we became, but if you're missing the top of the funnel, it's a very slim kind of top, then there's also no one to convert.
If only 10 people fall into your funnel and you sell 100% because you're so good at convert, it still is not enough.
Exactly.
Cool. So let's maybe now, before we dive into personal brand, maybe I just go quickly, like, what is a brand in general, right? There's like it's such a term that's being used. It's about, for one, just some of these elements, right? Identity, right? What's the identity? What are the kind of, visual identity elements? That's kind of part of like recognizing someone. Then what's the voice? How does the person or the brand talk about certain things? What tone of voice do they use? What are their values that shine through in everything they do, right? That's another element, another aspect. Like, is the value of inclusivity or whatever, or value of hyper practicality or action orientation, like we have it. What is these core values of a brand? There is promises. This is like the slogan or the mission or whatever that the brand is on. And then the experience, like when people come actually buy your products and services, what characterizes the experience you walk them through. And that's kind of like the brand in a more traditional branding context. And in general, it's like three main reasons, I guess, right? For why to build a brand. It's great to have a brand because, for one, people start recognizing you and people associate with you. They connect to you on an emotional level. They see your values reflected in themselves. They see themselves reflected in you. That's why, for one, you are differentiating. You have a point of view, because no human is the same, right? If you have values as that human, that is your potential customer, then you differentiate from another brand that might have slightly different values that this specific customer may not then align with so much. So it's differentiation, it's trust and loyalty, because we create this emotional connection, and there is value, because even if you have a product that has a neutral worth of, if we just take the raw ingredients of 100, but if you are Adidas as a brand, you can sell the same product instead of for 100, which everyone knows the raw materials are worth, for 300, because there is the brand. So you can make a lot more margin if you have a really good brand attached to your product. So with that context, like, what is now a personal brand? Like, how does that differ, and why is a personal brand important? What comes up for you on that?
So I would say probably like one of the things is that personal brand is always wider than your current business or your current product or service that you are selling, right? Because there is kind of like, it is you. Your personal brand is you. So you in your life have a certain mission, right? Or kind of like journey that you're going through. So, and this needs to be reflected in your personal brand. Like, for example, like, I don't know, if I would be putting any content out there, right? Doesn't matter which platform, doesn't matter if it's video, if it is copy, right? And whichever way it is done. But what needs to shine through is that I'm a very strong leader, like a very confident woman who enjoys building the life that she wants to build, right? And through that, like, whilst I'm building the life I envision for myself, I'm also building my business, right? So it's part of my life, but it's not the other way around.
Why does it matter that you're sharing your life and your process as a human? Because it's about the business and the customer.
Because in a way, like this business might not be the only business you're building, right? So you might down the line like start building different businesses, right? Or within the same business, completely different directions that you are taking, right? Or there are different products or services that you introduce. But if you have a very strong personal brand, people will buy almost anything from you. And this is proven, right? Because like we've seen it so many times that like if somebody has a very strong personal brand, it doesn't matter what kind of like venture they launch, right? People will buy from them because of their personality and because they believe in them and have trust in them. And then same goes for investors, right? A lot of times like when businesses are looking for investment, right? Like it doesn't matter if it's tech startups or lifestyle ventures, the investor a lot of times, or like let's say 99% of the time, would look into the character of the founder, right? Because they need to see like, is the founder a rock star? Like I can trust that they, you know, like actually gonna bring me return on investment, or they are not, right? That's why kind of like you need to sell yourself as a founder in order to get the money in, right? So if you have a very strong personal brand, you will be always really well paid.
So what I'm taking from that is like, you showing up in a more holistic way, wider than maybe your business brand, allows people to connect to you as a human and build a trust, a core trust. And this trust you can then leverage to get investors on board, to get customers to buy over and over again from you in different companies or sub-services, etc.
Exactly.
There's also this element of, you know, the customer is at a certain point A, and the customer has, like, in relation maybe to the business or to the service or the product you're offering, they have a vision or a dream of a point B. How does this vision get infused? Like, how should I think about, like, my personal brand is wider and I'm building trust. I get that, you know, but also that element specifically.
Well, like that comes a bit more to what kind of like parts of your personality you want to show, like when you communicate in your personal brand, what topics you want to talk about, right? So we start talking about content pillars here, which are kind of like going into that. What parts of your life, right? Or like imagery, kind of like the picture behind it that you want to show, right? So there are like so many different elements in that, but in a way, you are always somebody's point B, right? Like people are at a certain point of their life and they want to go somewhere else, like you said. And you are always point B for your customer. That's why it's so important to know and understand your customer, right? Like what are their like problems and struggles they have? What are their aspirations? Like what are their dreams? Where do they want to go with their life? What do they want to build, right? And what of this do you already have? So your personal brand will need to showcase this. Is in a way like, I don't know, like people who come to work with me specifically, right? Because I'm very straightforward, I'm very raw, I'm very authoritative in my character, and I would kind of like take it up a notch in my content, right? So that would shine through way stronger than maybe you would even experience me on everyday life.
They want to be
right?
authoritative.
And they want to be authoritative, and they want to just put their opinions out there and not care like what others think about it, right? If somebody like, I don't know, if there are haters, like criticizing them, like they want to be sometimes like me in a way that's like, oh, I don't really care, like I'll make haters scared of me, right? So like those kind of things will attract people who don't have what I have, right? And even like sometimes on a subconscious level, there are like some other elements of that. Because some people would want to come and work with us because we have a couple dynamic in our business journey, and they see the love, the trust, the support we have between each other.
It's only love and trust and support.
Of course. Whenever fight, I'm never like saying that I gonna quit like the business and also dump you and
throw stuff. Like,
exactly,
never happens.
But in a way, like people who want to have the relationship and don't have this relationship or don't have this relationship with their co-founder, with their partner, will be subconsciously attracted to that. Like people who have kids will be attracted to the parts that we also have kids, right? And the way how we combine the family life with the business life, right? So there are like so many different elements there where you need to build this trust, and it's kind of like, in a way, I am like you, but I also have something that you don't have.
And that can be like those elements that you mentioned, but also even obviously also the very obvious ones, like you want a business with 100K yearly profits. Look, I am a business with over 100K yearly profits. I'm living this life.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. So you already actually quite naturally touched on, which was the next topic, some of the use cases. We talked about the first one already in a way, like it's the use case of I validated my business and now I want to grow my audience. And this is a free way. I mean, your time and is required, but you in theory could start making content on a daily basis and start growing and attracting a bigger and bigger audience across social media, for example. So that's like one part to grow your audience in that stage of business. Another one you mentioned is the investors. If you want to attract investment, like they need to believe in you as a human. The founder is such a big part of, you could have a pretty presentation that says all the right things, but if the founder, the character, the brand around the founder is not there, like it's a risky investment immediately. So you having the right relationships, having the right logos on your profile, the right partnerships in place, that's all part of personal brand as well, right? And then the last piece, you already have maybe a 10-year growing, thriving business. It's already built on, all kinds of marketing and sales channels, but you never really explored the personal brand. You're going to networking events, you're the founder, you are maybe the face of the brand. You make the bigger B2B deals probably as a founder or CEO or whatever, and you notice that's actually, I'm losing actually a lot of money. And you can create much more confidence inside of yourself, but then also towards the audience who will check you out on social media by having the strong personal brand. Is there anything like about any of these three use cases where you want to add to this?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, like the last one is actually quite interesting because we just had it recently, like in our own experience, right? When the founder, like the business owner, came to us and they have a SaaS company for 10 years already on the market, but he goes to the conferences and then he realizes that actually people know about the companies that were established, like, 3-4 years ago, but they don't know about him, even though like his company is on the market for 10 years. And he's like, oh no, that this is just not right? Because our product is better, we have more experience, but like nobody cares because they don't know about you, right? So in this like use case specifically, it becomes extremely important as well to, like grow your personal brand, and through this also the trust and recognition of the like business that you have.
One thing I guess is the being known, right? If you're constantly out there putting content out there, establishing your brand, you get known for one. But then for two, even beyond that, just like, oh, I met this guy, he has 10 years already a business, and that let me check him out or her out. And you see the profile and there's nothing really, and it's kind of like just a picture and the history of career or whatever on LinkedIn. There's like, okay, kind of boring, kind of neutral. But if you have like meat to your persona and you have a history and track record of speaking and pushing a point of view and having a passion and, personality, then people can connect much easier and they feel more excited and drawn to actually have a continued conversation.
I mean, like in general, we always need to realize that sales equals trust or trust equals sales, right? Like whatever you turn it, but it's kind of like people need to trust us. And in order to buy from us, right? In order to make deals with our business, there needs to be trust. In order to create trust, what are all the elements that need to be there that you need to communicate outwards, right? To create the trust with the potential customer, right? And your personality, your values, your personal mission and vision is a huge element of the trust to your business, especially when you're just starting out, right? Like even when you have an established business, it is important. But when you're just starting out, it's basically you are your business. So if there is no trust between you
There's
and
no
the
track
customer,
record yet.
exactly. So
you
like,
are
then
the
there are
track
no
record.
then there are no sales, right?
Exactly. All right. So just to summarize kind of this like introductory, I guess, section, more educational, like what is branding? We talked about different use cases, starting out, growing an audience, about building trust for investment with early customers, as you just said, being relatable and creating like awareness, even if you're more established already. It's about having a point of view. It's about, infusing your human vision for your life, your personality, your points of views, and putting content out there in alignment with that. So what we're going to do in the second half now is to really dive into, if you're just starting out with building your personal brand, these are kind of the first steps to take. And we're going to try to, I'm going to challenge you to bring in, some practical examples and use cases and tips for people who basically can watch this episode or listen to this episode, click on pause, and actually go through some of this on the go. How do you build a personal brand? It starts with defining your personal brand, because what to put out there, you need to define it. And definition, something that we used to actually do quite intuitively, always with our customers from day one. Like when you're starting out, you want to validate your business idea. We said, hey, go out there and, pick a very specific niche that's based on your network, based on your experience, based on your skills, on your life, basically until now. And the epiphany you had of whatever it is that you're solving and the mission you're coming to the world with your business. And it was all about the human. And we kind of took this out through the framework of Miles from The Unfair Advantage. Like what different unique life experiences have you had? What unique connections have you had in your life? What networks do you have access to the most in your life through, whatever you've gone through until today, the places you've lived in, all of that feeds into that. That's where you can easiest access your first customers if you build something for that audience. Otherwise, you have to first establish trust in a different place where you haven't been yourself, which is much more difficult. And you have to first add a lot of people to your profiles that are that audience if you don't have them yet, right?
Yes.
And this is also step one, actually. Like as we dove deeper into this, where this came out, like this is actually step one. Understand who you are, understand your vision, purpose, values, joy, passion, like your unfair advantages. So like, how do I go about that? How do I, what's a practical way or a quick way for me to understand, okay, this is what I have to bring to the table as a core of the identity of me as part of my personal brand?
I mean, like everything that you said, right? You need to have a very clear understanding of what is important for you, what you want to accomplish, but in relation to your customer, right? And that's why we always talk about being customer-centric, about the, like you said, like what's the unfair advantage? What's the unique insight you have in a certain group of population that you can serve? Like, what's
for example,
the segment of the market? So I'll give an example, like, I don't know, let's take a real estate manager, like someone who sells real estate, right? So you might have very good knowledge of the market and like understanding what's important for you, but then you need to marry it with like what the customer wants, because it will be a very different way of how you position your brand if your customer is a young family with a limited budgets with young kids, or you have or you sell to somebody in the luxury segment. Right? So it's a very different type of brand you're going to be building and very different content you're going to be putting out there. Because if we are talking to a young family with small kids who have a limited budget, what's important for them, right? Like they would not care, I don't know, like what's the decoration and like, I don't know, like the little elements of, this building and in which century it was built or something like this, but they're going to care about where can I find the bank with the best interest rates for me? Do I have supermarkets and places to bring my kids to, like, I don't know, like schools, hospitals, I don't know, like after school curriculum activities and stuff like this? Is it like cheap? Is it practical, right? So those are the things that are important for your customer. So in a way, how you build your brand and all these things that you talk about going to be centered around those things, right? And your contents can become
A convenient housing brand.
And your content can become something completely like, I don't know, like along the lines of like, oh, hello guys, like today I have like, I don't know, like my girls' evening, and the girls come to, I don't know, like have an evening with me. Oh my God, I forgot to buy oranges like for the cocktails. Oh, but so nice that I bought this apartments last year, like from, I don't know, like with this limited interest rates, because look at this, and just can go downstairs and I have a supermarket there where I can get like the oranges right now. Or how convenient. By the way, like if you want to have the list of the banks with the best interest rates, like, I don't know, DM me the words interest rate and I'll send you the list of like the best conditions you can get right now, right? And you start getting people into your funnel. But it's a very different way than I would talk to a luxury customer. You see what I mean, right?
So it's like kind of what elements of my life am I sharing in what angle so that they resonate with my audience. So that's already kind of almost like going to the point about picking your narrative. What are the topics I'm talking about?
But like, I just wanted to show like that's, you know, like we're always customer centric. And even when we talk about ourselves, we don't really talk about ourselves, right? So we build the personal brand. Yes, it is about us, but in essence, it's about the customer, because we only highlight the elements of our life which are in line with what your customer wants, right? And if you have the unique insight in a certain group of population, it becomes increasingly easier to communicate to their pains and to their desires and like and wished for solutions that they want to have, right? So if you don't have this insight in the beginning, like it's going to be very difficult to hit the points where the customer sees, like can kind of like raise the hand and identify themselves in whatever like content you're putting out there, for one, right? And if you don't have this insight, you must get it as quick as possible. And that's why we're talking about like the beginner stage is kind of like identify whom do you have access to, who's in your network, can you get these insights from them, can you understand them in a very intimate way, you know, like knowing like all the things that they maybe won't even tell people, you know, like what are their secret kind of like desires that they won't even admit publicly, not to their friends, not to their family even. So you need to know the customers on that level.
And then that can only be done through personal like if you have a customer discovery interview person to person or digitally in a video call, you can get out some of this data and information like in a survey, in a generic thing, like, or if you don't even have these people in your network and you first need to connect to them as a stranger, people are not going to open up to you. So that's like just a very efficient, quick way without much spent to get to this depth of understanding of your customer. And that's actually step 2, you know, is this understanding deeply your ideal customer. So just to summarize step 1, it's like, what's your vision and mission in relation to the business that you want to create, and how does that play into a bigger life context? So we wanted to, you know, just get out of corporate at the time, you know, like find a new way, but you still need to earn money. What's a new way to earn money? I don't want to just do the same thing in a different context. So it needs to be something more purpose-driven, more mission-driven. So we came up with like, how do you come up with business ideas that are in that space? And then now I have the idea, but I need to make money because otherwise it still doesn't work. So what are all the ways to make money, you know, coming without a background of entrepreneurship, starting from scratch? So that's kind of what was our life moment, our history, our insight of how difficult that phase was actually, and to curate the support ecosystem now in our business for people so they can move through all of that much, much faster. And our vision is that we make this super accessible to anyone. Anyone just wants to start a business, they can, because there are efficient tools and processes that help you do that, mindset-wise, toolkit-wise, whatever, right? And then what the next step, kind of when I know what I want to bring to the world, it's still your hypothesis. So the next thing, what you said immediately, actually talk to people who you want to help with that, right? Other corporate professionals who are thinking about starting their business. What exactly do they want? What is on their mind? How do they talk about it? What's annoying for them? If you were that person, you already understand quite well, but it's very good to confirm because you have your language, people have their language, and you know nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. So just talking to a bunch of people in there. And then the next thing, step 3 now, take or define what sets your business apart within that. So within me serving that customer with the service I want to serve, why am I different than the rest. That's kind of the USP. It's more like the company USP, unique values. For us, it was this, okay, there were so many courses out there. We even spent lots of money on courses, and we got generic blah, blah with cool people, but who stayed top line. I don't need the top line motivational speech. I need practical tools. So we developed this value of like, everything we're going to do is going to be hyper practical. Stuff you hear today, you can start translating. We're going to try to talk always in a way that you can start translating this, right? And then maybe you speak a bit to step 4. Once you are clear on that, it's about kind of like seeing how can I develop a strong narrative or strong point of view around these things and use them to build and set my personal brand apart.
So actually, like, I would want to add something to point 3, right? Where we talked about like what differentiates you on the market, right? And it's again, like, it's actually a very important step, right? So like once you identified what's important for you, right? And what kind of like skills and insights you have and with what problems you can help people, after you interviewed people to understand and know them on a more intimate level to really like know and understand your customer, you start for the first time after that, right? In that order, because like usually people start with step 3 before they do the first 2 steps. You start looking around, right? Like it's the first time you start looking around who else plays like in the same market as you do, right? And like I always don't like the term competition, right? Like in a traditional way, we would say like, who are your competitors? For me, it's like, look at other players on the market and really see, like what do they do really well, but especially what is it something that they don't do well. And there are a lot of methods for this. Like you can do social media listening, right? Like you can go to different forums and see what your customers say about different services they use, right? And what are they happy about? And especially what are they unhappy about? What is the gap that's currently nobody is covering? So that can become very, very fast your competitive advantage versus everybody else, right? And these are exactly the things that you can highlight in your communication, like whenever you're building the brand, right? So I don't know, like we would see if we look at the Apple products, right? Like because like for example, like I'm a huge fan of Apple brand, like always was, like, and unless they really like screw something up, I probably will stay, right? But the simplicity of user experience in comparison to other products on the market is insane for me. So it's so intuitive, it's so logical for me. It's so simple. The connectivity between all the like Apple products, it makes my life so much easier than any other product that I've used before, right? And this is a massive USP, and that's why, despite like a much higher price than some other products on the market, I would still go and buy from freaking Apple, right? So this is kind of like what you need to identify, like what is it something that you can cover this gap in order to make your customer's life easier and much better, right? And that would make you stand out. And these are the things that you need to highlight in your communication.
Another example may be this other, I'm not going to name, but there was this other person who does something similar to us. When we started out, we were focused a lot on also helping coaches, helping coaches grow business, because that's something we did as well. And there's this company that offers exactly this support for coaches building a 100K business. But, and they say all the right things and do all the right things. It's actually quite good. But it's so boring the way they present it, and the personal brand behind it is so old school and traditional. And what could set us apart, just, in that case, just as an example, right, is just be the fun, cool version of that. That already sets you apart. And you can run home this we are fun, cool version of this. We still do all the points, but we are fun and cool. And people are, that can set you apart.
Absolutely, right? So it can be like even the personality, the way you do things, right? Like being more, agile, being more modern in a way, like this are
hands-on, practical.
Exactly, like all of these things that can really set you apart, right? And what was the point for? Remind me.
It's just like, to stick out with the personal brand, you need to have strong points of view. So how can you use the understanding now? Okay, this is the USP that sets me apart. It's like almost like going crazy on controversial, big personal points of views on the industry, on the service that is exactly feeding into that USP.
I mean, like, I think like we talked about it in one of our previous episodes, like when we talked about content marketing, But in general, like you really need to put yourself in the shoes of your customer. Again, right? Like customer centricity. Why would someone buy from you, right? You need to have the authority and you need to be the opinion leader because people want to follow leaders. They don't want to follow just, I don't know, random guy on the street. It would be really awkward if like I just saw some random guy and just like followed them, right? But if they told me, by the way, I know, I don't know, like the secret of the universe and I can teach you how to, I don't know, like get money on repeat nonstop. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I'll follow them, right? But it's in a way like you need to be the leader in the way how you express your opinions, right? And you need to have this like underlying confidence like in the opinions that you put out there. And I know it can be very difficult for people when they're just starting out, right? Like, where do I take this leadership from, right? I'm not even like 100% sure like if my service or product works, right? I haven't seen the results yet. I don't have a lot of customers, you know, like where do I take this confidence from? But
even when you're further along, right? This like this boldness, like still like, you know, you have a company for 10 years, but you still may be scared to put a controversial and maybe edgy comment out there that reflects your USP maybe, but it purposefully, that's kind of what you need to do almost with a personal brand, which, you know, you love doing it, but it's this like really being a bit controversial almost and being like overemphasizing these elements or these points of view.
Because otherwise it is boring, right? Like if you just if you say the same thing as everybody else says, what's the point of me listening to you, right? And also like it's actually really funny, like at this point of time there is a new algorithm on LinkedIn, for example. So your content is only being shown to more people if people outside of your network comment on your content, and like you kind of have this like long, I don't know, threads of comments like with the people outside of your network. So like second connection and further, which is really interesting, right? Because like one of the ways, for example, to achieve that is to say something highly controversial, because that would make people who disagree with you comment on your stuff. Because like if you say like a generically known thing that everybody agrees on,
a quick like at max.
Yeah, at max, you know, like, but it's like, why would I comment on this? So this is one of the ways to attract
trigger.
Exactly, like to trigger people. And that's what we talked about as well. That's a lot of times like people are very scared to trigger others in their content, right? Like it's kind of this very uncomfortable space. However, this is something that gives you the most sales. And in a way, like, why are you building the personal brand? Like, what's the reason for building a personal brand? For generating more sales, right? So your content, like whatever you put out there, needs to be highly converting. Otherwise, like, what's the point of doing that? And it's like triggering people, expressing very strong opinions about things, controversial opinions a lot of times, saying something that is like goes against what is generally known in your industry, or generally is not being said, like because like people hiding it kind of like behind the curtain, like in your industry. That will create you the standing and will make you like stand out and noticed by people.
So really, you know, if you're listening and doing this along, like think like what are those USPs that you're bringing to the table, and then create heavy, strong, controversial points of view for those not bringing those USPs to the table, for example, and why that is so horrible, even if it's just slightly bad. You know, you purposefully emphasize, and you said it's kind of uncomfortable because we're supposed to be nice people, and that's not very nice sometimes. But it's like this emotional detachment as well. As you're building a personal brand, you mentioned haters before. Haters are gonna haters are gonna come. You know, it's almost like, you know, when you start to get into this and you have a bit of emotional detachment, you're almost like proud to start having haters, right? You were like, oh, I have a hater, Karsten. I was like, yeah, you have a hater. This is amazing, because it means you're growing. It means you're
means you're getting noticed.
Which president of the United States doesn't have a bunch of haters, right? But they are the most powerful person in the United. Well, who knows? But you know, what leader, what CEO doesn't have haters? Like if you grow up the ladder, if you become a leader, there's gonna be people who follow you, but they follow you because of this controversial like approach. They align with you, but then there will be automatically others who don't, and that's okay. So like really, you know, lean into emotional detachment, like just for the sake of it, just write down what would it mean to be super emphasizing these kinds of things, and just let it sit maybe for a bit and try it out once. Yeah,
so this makes you like stand out as a leader, right? But there are also other things that you can infuse in there because
Own personality would be the next step.
Okay.
If you want to go, if
yeah,
that is
I wanted to go there, so maybe
okay,
it's a nice
so step
transition.
5, like choosing, you as a person, know yourself as a person and your personality quirks, and then choose which of these really can fit your personal brand and your narrative and play into this kind of communication that you're building. So tell us more.
Well, like this is important as well, right? Because the same as being controversial and very strong in your expert opinions, like we will repel some people, but we will also attract people, right? Who agree with our point of view. So repel to attract. And the same you do like with showing certain traits of your personality, right? So if you are let's say like, I don't know, like if you love pets, like, I don't know, like you're a cat lady, like some people can be like, oh my God, like what's wrong with her? But some people can be like, oh my God, so cute. I love cats too, right? And they will become attracted to this. I don't know, like if you have certain traits of your personality, which can be
Evil humor.
like evil humor, like I have. Carsten's talking about me, right? So I have this like very evil sense of humor.
We can have fights, and then if I say something that's kind of evil, or if she says something that's kind of evil, it's easier if she says it. If I say it, it's a very risky path in that moment. But if she says something evil to me in that moment, she laughs her ass off about this evil comment that she just did, super, going crazy on me. And she's all of a sudden, everything is okay. And so she uses this naturally in her life a lot. And, this is something she can bring to the business now as well.
Exactly, right? So like there are like certain quirks or things of your personality that you might want to put out there just because people will get attracted to that, right? Because like it can be like not attractive for some, and they for sure will fall off and will stop following you and will stop interacting with your content. But there will be people who will be extremely attracted to this and would love this, right? So that's why we're building here and talking today about the personal brand, right? It needs to be infused with your personality, because otherwise, if you just put expert content out there, right, and you're building an expert brand, like it's literally an encyclopedia, right? Like without the character. People just come, they find something which is useful for them. Exactly, or ChatGPT, and they just piss out, right?
So what differentiates you from ChatGPT? Why do people not just type in the question in ChatGPT? Why would they go to your profile and look what your content is to follow you? It's your personality, it's your point of view. It's infusing all of that. And then
your experiences as well that you lived through, right? And it's like the lens of your experience that you put on any knowledge or any information that you're putting out there.
Yes, because that's unique to you. And that was step 5. So choosing your own personality traits that you're bringing into this brand. That could mean like every now and then you do some evil humor, making fun of someone in the industry or whatever it is, right? And that's just a quirk that you integrate that sets you apart from others. And then step 6 was also definition of your own life experience in the moment as a human. Like what elements of your holistic life experience do you infuse in there as well? It's not just your personality as we discussed in step 4, but step 5, but also in step 6 now, your life experience. So also think about that. Like what kind of life experiences do you flow? How do I choose what to let flow into my personal brand from there?
In general, you can allow anything to flow in, but I'm a very data-driven person, so I would poll my audience a lot on social media, but also like talking to them in customer discovery conversations, or whenever having like coffee chats or whatever, right? I would find out what's on their mind, what are they interested in, right? That's why we're talking about knowing your customer intimately. Like if people in my audience are at the stage when they have families and they have kids, they might start looking for a house. And if I'm right now looking for a house, I would be definitely sharing these experiences and showing it to my people because I know this is something they're interested in. But they might not necessarily be interested in what I cooked for kids this afternoon.
It's like their point B. They're looking for a cool house, and they're looking forward to the point where they can get a cool house, and you are buying a cool house, or you have a cool house, or they wish they could live by the beach. You are living by the beach. It doesn't mean like, hey, look, I'm living. It could just be subtle as well, right? Like it's just kind of part of a flow, but you're actually talking about business expert content, but there's a beach in the background, you know? And
Exactly, right? So it's kind of like, in a way, the subtle subconscious message that they're receiving, like, oh, look at me, I'm still sitting here in the office, like, and feeling miserable, and she's like, I don't know, like recording her content somewhere from the beach, right? So a picture can speak 1,000 words as well, right? But it's, in a way, for me, again, everything that we do, because, like, why do we build a personal brand? For sales, for conversion, right? Like, we don't put any random stuff out there as a brand, right? Like, content is curated, but it's like, it doesn't mean that you can't express something that is on your mind temporarily right now at this very moment of time. You absolutely can, but always think, how does it relate to your customer? Because anyways, doesn't matter what you do, it's still not about you, it's about the customer, right? Kind of like, depending on the goal that you have. If your goal is just self-expression and, I don't know, like, you are doing it for your own creativity and putting some content out there, that's one thing. If you're doing it to build the business, which means to convert more customers, then your content needs to be curated and customer-centric.
Absolutely. All right. So I think we're at the last point now, step 7 of understanding, you know, what is my personal brand? And that's kind of, it's almost like you already got all the meat. Now it's just about choosing a character. So, you know, for example, Russell Brunson, he talks about these like attractive characters that you need to take on and represent to your audience so that, you know, you become likable. And this attractive characters, he gives kind of like the leader, he gives the adventurer, he gives the reporter, and he gives the reluctant hero. So can you maybe talk a little bit about, you know, what are those characters, what character you may want to take on, depending on what, like how to think about, you know, choosing for yourself this kind of character, and what is it?
I mean, like, in general, my own personal perspective is that the leader type of hero personality always converts the best. Like, always converts
What
the
is
best.
the different characters to begin with? What's the leader? What's the others?
You can tell us as well. So.
Okay. Well, thought I'm the interviewer. But so the leader is more like, you know, putting your expertise out there with a point of view. I've learned it. I know it. Here's how it works. It's authoritative. It's this kind of approach, this kind of brand that you're putting out there. The adventurer, or I think the crusader, I think he uses like / crusader, depending on the type of business. You know, it's like you're on a mission to explore and like drive forward, create momentum. So this could be you learning a new skill, kind of like I'm diving really deep now into lead generation, even like further, like really holistically. Like, I'm gonna share this as part of my personal brand, this journey of me engaging in that. Then there is the reporter / evangelist, I think he says.
Yes, evangelist.
And that's more like, maybe you're not actively engaging yet. Maybe you're not an expert, super expert yet, that you can be this confident, authoritative leader. But maybe, you know, you're still building your runway in your business, and, you know, you're still like, but you're preparing, you're already getting ready. And like, then you can be the reporter, the evangelist that kind of curates content within the field you want to get into with your business, and already start talking about this. You know, you're not maybe have your big point of view, you're not super authoritative, but you are sharing curated information and establish yourself still as an expert just by, you know, doing this. And then there's the what was it? The reluctant hero. It's like you already achieved. So this is the business owner who is in a long time already, maybe in the business. You've achieved success already, and you just like, how do I build this personal brand? I'm already the success. I can be humble about this. I can share my processes. I can encourage others. This kind of the humble achiever at the end of that journey. So this can all be different brands or attractive characters that people feel pulled to. So which one should I choose? Which one should people choose?
Well, it really depends, right? Like where you are in your business building journey. As I said, like I would say that leader is probably the one who will convert the most customers into like potential customers into buyers. But in general, you need to infuse all of them into your content, like at least a little bit, because otherwise it becomes too boring, right? It's kind of like there is so much information and there is like so much kind of like coming to our customers, right? And they're like so used to entertainment, like just the whole industry of content is so entertaining that if you're always the same, at some point it becomes boring, right? So sometimes you need to surprise them, and sometimes you might want to jump into different roles. But if you're just starting out, for example, and you don't feel the confidence inside yet to be this like very authoritative leader who puts this like very strong expert opinions out there, you absolutely can be the evangelist, right? Like someone who just curates the contents, like
From leaders,
right? Like brings the most relevant information, or I don't know, like just the adventurer who goes and like just learns on the way like different things and shares the journey, right? Like, oh, today I tried XYZ and came out with the ABC result, and tomorrow I'm gonna try something different, right? So people can like kind of relate to your journey and go on the journey together with you. So those are absolutely like viable ways of building the audience and keeping the interest of the audience, like whilst you're building your brand. But at some point of time, you would need to switch to this leadership opinions in order to really stand out, in order to really like take a big chunk of your following together with you and start conversing them like at a higher pace.
And it's also like kind of like just building depth of relationship, right? When you say mixing in the other points as well, like it's not just about interesting, it's also about just getting to know you through different facets. Nobody doesn't have a point of view on anything. There will be one topic you do have a point of view on. You know, there's one topic you will be authoritative on, even though you never expected there's this shy person. But when it comes to this one topic, you know, boom, that you. And this is interesting. This is personality. So just to summarize, you know, defining your personal brand. First, get clear on your own vision, your values. You know, what's important to you. What are your unfair advantages also in relation to this? You know, what has been your epiphany in your life, your path, your journey to get there? Understanding what your customers are thinking and feeling, their pains, their desires, their wishes, their desired point B, their lifestyle that they want in relation to, you know, what you're doing.
Their biggest obstacles, their biggest fears.
Objections.
Exactly, all of that.
Step 3, really defining how your business is uniquely catering to those versus others. Step 4, how can you develop strong, controversial, emphasized personal points of views on those, especially those USPs ideally. Then step 5, choosing the personality aspects from yourself, like this evil humor that you sometimes just infuse in the way you talk and the way you bring content. Step 6, what part of your lifestyle do you infuse that is relevant? And step 7, choosing one of these characters that is your dominant character, and then you do make side steps to each of these characters, but you have one that's kind of more dominant, and people kind of know what to get from you. All right. So with that said, that's like your base. Now I have that base. Now I need to create freaking content, and that's where we hear from a lot of people, like it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to create content. I don't even know what content to talk about. If I want to post every day, oh my God, I need to post every day. Like what to talk about every day, you know? So I think the next section is really just, and this is the final one for today, just like how to think about the narrative that you bring in content, how to structure it in a weekly rhythm as well. So something where you can speak to consistently every day in a mix that makes a lot of sense for your audience. And we always say to start with your backstory. When you start telling your personal brand story, the beginning always, or when you're shifting your story, always start with your backstory that drove you to this moment. Can you tell us a little bit? What does it mean, your backstory? How should I, what should I say in the very early beginning of me establishing my brand?
This is such a good question, but like just before that, like little note, like in general, like you don't need to put content like on the same platform every day, just for people's understanding, right? Because like I think it's like important to understand as well. But you need to have at least 5 touch points per week with your audience, because like once again, like a reminder, right, that people buy from us after consuming 7 hours of our content or having at least 13 touch points with us, right? So we kind of like want to connect to them, and ideally down the line on different platforms, but at least 5 times per week, right? So it might be like, but again, depending on your customer, right, and where they hang out, that's why we need to know them and understand on which platforms we put this out in order to build our brand. But let's say like if their typical platforms are LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube, right, throughout the week, you just need to have 5 touch points like across these 3 platforms, right? So it might be that's like, I don't know, 3 times per week you put something like a post on LinkedIn, you do once the stories on your Instagram, like, and once you post a YouTube video. So that can be like the sequence kind of, right? And the way of putting the content out there. But it's important because then we constantly stay on top of mind, right? And they see us.
So consistency is important. It can, but doesn't have to be on only one platform.
Exactly. Like in general, like we always tell people when they're just starting out, start with 1, maximum 2 platforms, because otherwise like it will just burn you out.
Because you need to master one platform first. So it's easier to do 5 times on LinkedIn in the early stage and then, go into a second platform. Because if you're doing it very bad on all platforms, then
it also doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
So, but in general, this is just the mindset. So like over time, you would want to move to 5 touch points per week across different platforms.
So what about that backstory?
So the backstory. So the backstory, again, is the same as what we said before. It's about you, but it's not about you. It's actually about your customer. Your backstory needs to talk to the highest points of pain for your customer, where in connection, in relation to your business and the type of service or product that you provide, did you have this epiphany, like you said, like where the pain was the strongest, where it's forced you to make a change, to create something different, to, I don't know, like to come up with this product or service idea that you have right now, right? So you need to talk about that. So basically in your backstory or about me section, right? Like that we usually have on LinkedIn, for example, we have the about section. You can talk about the point of the strongest pain that your customer will be experiencing right now, that they are experiencing, and the point where everything changed and you came up with this product or service, which is obviously a bridge between their pains and their desires, what they want to have in their life, right? And it's like, there you describe kind of like why, it happens, why you went on the mission of creating something, why you created it, what it does for them, and stuff like this. So this is your backstory. So you're talking about the highest pain moments like in the life of your customer.
And how you have overcome this, what you have learned to move past that.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. So that's the backstory. That's what maybe your first week or whatever, a couple of weeks of post, it can be about that, establishing this backstory. And later maybe you do this, you remind new followers once a quarter, whatever, again, about your story. Maybe you pin this on your Instagram profile somewhere or in the stories somewhere.
Highlights.
In the highlights, exactly. Or in the about section on LinkedIn, etc. Right? So there's always a way for people to easily understand your backstory, because that's what creates this trust and this bond, initially to the person. Now, I'm beyond that point now. So what I want to talk to you about now is this, like, what can be a weekly rhythm? Because we work in a frequency of in like a rhythm of weeks, right? So Monday through Sunday, I want to now talk through, actually, I think it's 5 different aspects of topics that you can talk about throughout the week. And this is pretty universally applicable. Of course, there's, differences sometimes depending on the business and industry. But more or less, you can apply this logic. If you want to start with something, you can apply this exact logic.
This is a very workable framework that we're going to talk about.
So let's just go, like, some will be, duplicated. We'll talk to this because it's 7 days, but we have only, I think, 5 topics. But the first topic, let's assume it's a Monday. Can be, and again, the days, which day has what topic is not fully fixed, right? More lifestyle and easygoing content on weekends is kind of a rule of thumb. But, beyond that, it's kind of very flexible. But let's assume Monday, we talk about customer pains, customer wishes, the customer and what is their narrative basically in relation to your topic, how they talk about it, what you know from customer discovery interviews, what they are complaining about. Show them that you know them. So, like, what are good ways maybe to, like, when you think of, like, every Monday I'm going to talk about pains and wishes and customer narrative, like, how would you, like, what are some practical ways to go about it?
So you can talk about the mistakes people are making right now, like, or you think that you need to be doing this and that, like, I don't know, let's take maybe an example of our own business, right? I might talk about the pain of the customer to put content out there. right? So I might talk about like, oh, like, look, you're working like, I don't know, countless hours, like you are just like working so hard, you put a lot of content out there, no sales come from it. You know, like, so you start feeling burned out, you want to like completely drop all of this stuff because it's useless, it doesn't bring any results. Like, look, this is something that you're doing wrong. If you want to do it right, you know, drop me a DM, I put a CTA.
Even better.
Right? So like, it's kind of like, once again, a reminder that marketing is always about grabbing and holding attention of our audience with the intention that they perform the action that we want them to perform. And it's not always about buying from us. So it's like your content doesn't need to be always like, oh, buy from me, buy here, buy this, buy that, right? But you can teach them to do actions, to act on your content, so they get so much into habit of it that when you actually put the sales offer out there, they're so used to acting on your content that they're gonna act, right? So if your audience is not engaged, if they're not interacting with your content, good luck selling to them, because most probably when you put the sales offer out there, they will not be ready to buy. So in a way, it's kind of like you can portray their pain, you can say what they're doing wrong, you can talk about the mistakes, you can talk about misconceptions, you can talk about like you probably experienced this and that, right? If this is true for you, if you want to change it, drop me a DM. I don't know, like I can send you like an easy framework of how to deal with that, right?
Or even their wishes and the results they desire. You want these results, you know, this is the biggest things that are going to get you there, or whatever it is.
Right? You can talk about like there's like an awesome way kind of like talking about the gap, right? Like you want this, but your actual reality is this. You know, like you want to have like a sexy body. Your reality, you have some like a body that you have to hide like under an oversized hoodie. Right, this is your reality. They're like, oh yeah, like right. There's a reality for many people.
No, I'm just gangster. That's why I'm wearing the oversized hoodie.
Right, but like those kind of things, like you can highlight, right? So you can highlight the gap between what they want and what the actual reality is. So if you want to bridge the gap, you can position your product or service.
So that summarizes point one: customer pains, customer wishes, different ways. You know, listen to customer discovery interviews. Look at your notes from there. Look exactly what people said. Make a story about one small element or aspect of what they said. If you do enough interviews, this should already give you weeks and weeks of just filling that Monday slot. Now, Tuesday, let's assume Tuesday is technical knowledge, expertise knowledge Tuesday. So what does that mean? What does it mean to show up as an expert with technical knowledge as part of your content plan?
So you basically talk about little hacks, solve a part of their problem for them very quickly that they can immediately feel the result. You know, something very, very easy, not complicated. Like you can talk about, you know, like, oh, if you want this result, do X, Y, Z, right? That's where you can give them the what, so you can give them the steps, but not the how, right? Because like, yes, well, in a way, actually, sometimes I think that you can even give people the how of doing that. The problem is majority of people won't do it anyway, so you can give
they just pay you
everything
for accountability.
Free. Exactly, right? So in a way, like you can give out everything, but like just solve like a small part of their problem for them. Very easy.
So many small aspects of problems you can solve by giving like the new AI tool that helps you with the with getting the frame of your content, like of post right.
Exactly.
Like a workflow for that.
Give them a prompt. Oh, you want to build your sales funnel? Like, here is the prompt you can put in ChatGPT. Nice.
Yeah. So lots of ways of like, just think like, what are you giving to them as your service or product, and just pick tiny elements from that and make a story from it. And just like, you can even like tell, AI, hey, I'm doing these things for my customer. Give me like 100 little mini tips I can share with them as an expert. And, you will have a good amount of ideas and brainstorm right there.
Absolutely.
All right. So now we're moving to Wednesday. So that's another aspect as well. Case studies and testimonials. So why are we sharing case studies and testimonials? And like, anything specific
once
to say
again,
about
right? Like, put yourself in the shoes of your customer. Why would they buy from you? Because you are someone who gets results for other people, for people who are like them. So in order for them to once again, like raise the hand and identify themselves as a potential customer. They need to see themselves in your content. So when you're talking about client testimonials, when you're talking about case studies, right, like breaking it down, you're showing them what type of customers work with you, what type of problems they bring to you, and the types of solutions you provide, so they can very easily identify themselves with that. Plus, they see the results, which is social proof, right? Like we have all it in our brain. That's like we go with the crowd. Wherever crowd goes, we go because it's safer, right?
So for one, giving people examples, practical examples through the lens of a case study, it also shows you are actively helping people with this, and it also gives people an understanding of how you could maybe help them, because they see, oh, this is how he or she helped this person. I see myself in that person. Maybe he or she can also help me. But then also social proof, here's a testimonial, people were happy with the work I did, both very important to show on a regular basis. Then Thursday could be a technical knowledge aspect too. We don't have to talk about that. It's just, again, pick one of those 100 ideas, right? Talk about it, establish expertise. Friday, now we're Friday. It's already, the week is winding down, could be mindset. Because in every business, doesn't matter what business you have, could be a tangible physical product, people still need to have a certain mindset that would probably get them ready to say, oh yeah, your product or service is the right thing for me. If they don't have that mindset, they're not there. Or if they don't show a certain mindset, even consuming your product or service is not going to give them the results. So you want to give them this mindset work as well. That's another way of talking about expert knowledge, but more from the mindset perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Saturday, lifestyle aspects. Maybe you speak just a little bit about that, because like people may be like wondering, what lifestyle do I bring in? It's like my personal life. I don't, it feels uncomfortable. So how do I on a Saturday, like what would be an example of bringing in lifestyle into your content mix?
Again, think about your customer. What's interesting for them? At what point of their lives they're at right now? What are the difficulties that they are facing, or the things that they enjoy? And this is something that you can showcase, right? You can talk about the week. You can talk about the difficulties of, like, it's kind of like behind the curtain of your business, right? So you're pulling the curtain up, this was difficult, that was difficult, I don't know, like kids were sick, like whilst I still had to deliver this massive presentation at the conference, I don't know, like went to drink a cup of coffee, like look at this like wonderful view that I have, like so blessed to be living by the ocean. Whatever that is, right? Like it needs to be still connected to the customer. And ideally, it still has an authority drop in it, right? So it's kind of like, just notice what I'm doing, like my week has been tough, the kids been sick, and it was a challenge, attention, to prepare a presentation for this huge conference with thousands of attendees. So I'm dropping my authority in there. I'm the expert still. I am the expert. I'm showing you the science of me being the expert, but I'm wrapping it into the context of my life and the difficulties that's like I'm going through, right? It's like, it's once again like a very interesting way actually of building the connection with people, because yes, they buy because they see your success or the success that you create for customers, but they relate to you because there is a process that led to success with ups and downs, right? And we talked about it, taking them on the emotional roller coaster with you and opening up a bit, like how was the way to wherever you are at right now.
Cool. So I hope that gives a bit of an understanding of like how to think about that. Also just write down, what are you doing? What are situations where you notice in your real life, where you're in the bigger context of your everyday life, where you are still doing business stuff, which is something that's on your mind that could be worth sharing on there. Also, it's a bit lighter usually on the weekend. There can also be some motivational and fun, just funny things as well. Because anyway, engagement on a Saturday is usually not the craziest.
Sunday is actually prime spot for posting. You can notice across platforms actually. Afternoon/evening. So like Instagram will really pick up a lot by the end of Sunday. And the same actually with LinkedIn, despite the fact that it's been a professional social platform. There is a lot of engagement happening in the afternoon on the day.
And just the topic here, the last one for the week, it's business milestones, or reviewing your week, reflecting on your process. So this is like, this building in public kind of like theme or
this
trend.
This is your adventure.
That's my adventure. I'm learning something. I'm sharing what I'm learning along the way for lead generation, for example, or but you for your business. This week when I'm looking back at this week, we've served amazing people, again dropping this authority, but then also calling out milestones. What worked, what didn't work is something you can talk about. And yeah, this is really the flow of the week. So the topics, again, to summarize: customer pains, wishes, technical knowledge, which you can talk about twice, case studies as a third one, and testimonials. Then mindset elements related to your business, lifestyle, and business milestones and reflection. So if you just use these as kind of daily themes and you start generating ideas, you can build yourself a nice content plan that gives you a few weeks head start. In the interest of time, I'm just gonna talk a little bit through this. Just add maybe small element if you feel like there's something big that you want to highlight. We also wanted to talk. Now we talked about how to build your personal, brand identity. Now we talked about how do I transmit that in content in a weekly rhythm, and in what kind of content pillars. And now within each piece of content, what we wanted to say is always go hook, story, infused with authority, as Olga just said, and then a CTA. Always have a CTA. And the CTA should 5 to 6... A call to action. Yes, thank you. 5 to 6 days per week, the CTA should be about giving more value. It can be a freebie that you have in your business. It can be just some other call to action that brings value to your audience. And 1 to 2 times per week, make it a very sales-heavy call to action. Buy from me. Here, sign up now, whatever it is. So this is the 80-20 kind of rule of 80% value, 20% sales. This is very different than when you're just starting out and validating your business, where it's probably the other way around, 80% sales, 20%. We talk about hooks and stuff in the content episode as well, so maybe we don't need to go deeper into this. Language, we also talk in the content episode, talk like you would talk to friends and colleagues. Don't use ChatGPT, not language, or try to be professional. People don't relate to that. Be professional, but in your way. It's a conversation. Be short, be simple. Don't use big words, use simple words. Break up lines. Don't use the typical profoundness AI words of ChatGPT. And that's really it. Is there anything you want to say to wrap up before I wrap up?
No, I would say that's perfect.
That's a wrap. Okay,
yeah,
cool. So for everyone listening, everyone has gone through this, right? Everything we mentioned this before, it's a core value. Action orientation, practicality. We hope there was a lot of practical examples here. Get into action. There's a lot of people who come to us but I need to find my voice first before I can start building map. No. This is your freaking voice. What you heard in this episode. Start getting out there. Start building your personal brand. You will be a bit shy in the beginning. You will not be perfect in the beginning, but doing it's like training your muscles. You will get better and better. And you will also notice the direction of where you want to bring your personal brand when you're on the journey. So just get started, use this, and start posting, start getting out there, start delivering content, build your brand, build the relationships you need to build to position yourself the way you want to be positioned. So that's really it. I think we will post a freebie below as well, below this episode. As usual, we give something. So this time it will be the workbook of building this personal brand, kind of what we just went through in a more structured way. So you can also do it offline without listening to this directly on YouTube or Spotify or wherever it is. And if you want any help with that, to do it faster, better, smarter, where to find us. We can help you with different services there as well, of course. All right.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. Thank you, Olga.